Welcome to another episode of the Cryptid Files. We are your hosts, as always, Anthony and Charlie.
Yep.
And today we're going to be talking about the knot deer.
Now, what is the knot deer? What do you know about the knot deer, AJ? Do you know anything about the knot deer?
So here's what I have with the knot deer. The knot deer
Yeah.
comes to us from the Appalachian Mountains. Most of the sightings are from Tennessee,
Yep.
but it's seen all along the mountain range from Maine to Georgia. The first sighting was sometime in 2019, but I could be wrong. That's just the first one I could find that popped up in the data I was looking at. And the knot deer resembles a deer, but moves awkwardly like a newborn, with sometimes backward-facing legs, a barrel, chest, or bloat, super long neck. It'll occasionally walk upright on its hind legs. The biggest thing about it is it'll have front-facing eyes instead of side eyes, like a regular. Like it'll have front-facing eyes like a predator instead of like the side-facing eyes like prey. And it's got like disjointed limbs, and it's all fucking wonky looking.
Yeah.
So that's the knot deer.
That
and they're also not afraid of people.
That's a good general description of knot deer. So, basically, the knot deer is a category of cryptid in a sense. It's pretty much a term used to describe something that looks like a deer, but is not a fucking deer. So you spend a lot of time in the woods, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. You spend a lot of time in the woods at night. Have you ever seen a deer that's just acting weird or doing weird things or doesn't seem quite right?
Not while I'm out in the woods at night, but I have seen a few driving home that just seem off.
Yeah, so it's not only a physical characteristic that makes the deer different, it's behavioral too.
Right. They're said not to be afraid of people, right?
Yeah, they're not afraid of people. The knot deer is not afraid of people. So normally deer, they're prey animals, right? And they should be basically avoiding people, predators, anything that looks like a threat. But the thing that makes the knot deer different is that it's not a prey animal. It's a deer that's almost turned predator. So they've been described as having sharp predator-like teeth instead of the normal herbivores, wild antlers, black eyes. Let's just go over a few characteristics of deer in general. A lot of people don't know that deer can get pretty damn big.
Oh yeah,
they can get to 300-400 pounds, like a male buck with a big old antlers and everything. They turn into pretty big creatures. North American whitetail is the first species that we think of when we think of deer, which is what the knot deer is most commonly referred to. But there's also elk and moose and reindeer, and all those things are part of the deer family.
Deer family, right? Ibexes, gazelles, all these things.
Yeah. So the knot deer isn't, in a sense, a singular thing. It's more of a distorted deer. Now, there's theories on what makes these things. Some people think it's something similar to a skinwalker, and it's something pretending to be a deer.
That doesn't know how.
That doesn't know how. It's trying to blend in and be a deer. Which I'll go into some people's explanations, because there's some really cool explanations for how these things could be real. So they think that it could be something that's trying to be a deer. Or there's also the theory that it's something similar to a Wendigo. So the Wendigo is, the way it's been described over the years, it's almost like a deer-like creature with antlers. And the knot deer it's not a deer. It's not a deer.
It's deer-like.
It's very similar to a deer, but it can stand on back legs and might have claws. It might just, there might be some weird thing about this that makes it similar to a Wendigo. So they think it might be the Appalachian Mountain version of the Wendigo in a sense.
Okay.
But yeah, that's the basic description of it. Now, the real question everybody wants to know is what could this actually be? Are there explanations of what can make a deer into some type of crazy animal?
I have two that, one is kind of out there. One is that all the Appalachian sightings that might be kangaroos that escaped from the zoos in the area.
Yeah.
So seeing this kangaroo in the woods standing up all deformed looking to a deer, because they have little front arms, they stand on their back legs, and they can't see their tail in the underbrush. That's a pretty out there theory. I don't think it's a fucking kangaroo. The other one is that it's just a diseased deer.
Yeah. So have you heard of chronic wasting disease?
Is that kind of like mange?
To the extreme.
So it's like mange, but for your flesh?
It's a prion disease. So do you know
Okay.
or a prion or a prion? Do you know what that disease? What prion diseases are though?
Those are like flesh-eating bacteria things, right?
No, they're brain diseases, right?
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's like mad cow disease. So it's a disease that breaks down the deer, breaks down its brain. Their eyeballs can fall out.
Oh,
Their
Jesus.
muscles can rot away. And they turn into pretty much zombie deers. Now, this makes the deer behave in absolutely insane ways. There's videos of deer with chronic wasting disease just walking into the water and
Okay.
drowning.
Just drowning.
Just
Yeah.
drowning themselves. There was a video going around of a deer walking into a fire.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, and just burning and not moving. It literally turns them into zombies. And it's a really big problem in the South, where there's like really dense populations of deer. Because basically we have killed all the predators in the area that would naturally, kill deer. And so you get these new like deer diseases when population increases so much. So that's why we have chronic wasting disease now. So some people think that could be it. The other thing they think it could be is deer with rabies. That is a little bit less likely. There haven't really been known to be popular carriers of rabies, but they also think it could be mange. There's a bunch of like medical things, but it doesn't explain the bizarre things that people have been seeing.
The brain rot one does, but other than that,
well, yeah,
I don't think a rabid deer would run into a fire or like stand up on its hind legs and be all like crooked.
Well, a deer can stand up on its hind legs, but it can't sprint at you on its hind legs. It doesn't run at you. It doesn't have razor sharp teeth. It doesn't all of a sudden turn into a predator. That's where we're at with the not deer. It's like it's not a deer. This isn't a deer. Yeah. So that's like an image of like what they think a not deer might be. It is basically a type of rabid, angry, aggressive deer turned predator. Those who believe in kind of like shape-shifting entities out there think it is something trying to pretend to be a deer. So, but also there are weird deer that exist. Like, have you heard of like a regular deer? Like the
What do you mean a regular?
So
like
there's deer with antlers that are non-symmetrical. So they'll have like all kinds of like wild fucking antlers on one side and all kinds of like like weird antlers on the other side, and they just look like absolutely wild. And also there's that stigma of being in the woods at night where you hear something and you're like, it's probably a deer, and then your first thought is it's not a deer. Yeah. So that's kind of where the name not deer came from in a sense. But yeah, this is one of those like, it was really hard to trace down the origins to this. I think the term not deer came from like not too long ago. The early 2000s is what people started calling them. But people have always spotted deer doing absolutely bizarre things and being weird like this.
It's like a new old cryptid.
Yeah.
It's like a new term and a new phenomena of an old cryptid that's probably been around for a long time.
Yeah, it's like a new acknowledgement to it. Have you seen the show Adventure Time?
Bits and pieces.
Okay. There is a episode of Adventure Time with a deer that pulls its hooves off of its hands, and it's got like hands underneath. People have said like, that's a not deer. Absolutely bizarre, man.
Yeah. That's fucking weird. Well, so I'm gonna give you my possible not deer sighting, and actually it comes from doing this podcast. I was actually driving home from your house when you used to live in Shahola.
Yeah.
And I was coming over the mountain over High Point, and there was this deer standing in the middle of the other lane, but like sideways, like it was crossing, and then it saw my car coming and it froze. And normally when you're driving past deer, they kind of like, they watch you go by or they run off. This one froze just staring across the road. As I drove by it, it didn't turn to look at my car. It didn't like watch the car go by. I stared at it because I'm like, at any second this thing might run into my car. I stared at it and I just drove past it, and it just kept facing the tree line as I just slowly creeped by it. It was just super uncanny, and it just gave me such a weird gut feeling of like, that's not right. Something about this ain't right.
This deer doesn't know how to behave like a deer.
Exactly. So that was a really
absolutely wrecked in your car?
You mean the deer that absolutely wrecked me?
Yeah.
Fucking piece of shit.
Yeah, we were driving that one day and just runs out into the middle of the road and just destroys your mirror and half your car. But then the deer disappeared, which was really weird too.
The body was just gone.
Yeah.
Maybe that was a not deer too.
That was a not deer. That was a not deer. Do you think not deer know they're not deer?
I think they're fully aware of what they are. Okay, so here I have another story. This actually comes from my buddy Dan. So this story happened in June of 2022. This is while he was doing his first attempt at a 50K. So approximately 8 miles into the run, he spotted a deer about 50 yards ahead of me. As he got closer, it didn't move, shift its weight, or stop watching him.
Yeah.
Within 15 yards, there was still no movement, and it was just still like a statue. That's when he got one of the weirdest feelings. He continued closer because he was on a time crunch, but the closer he got, the more he could tell this wasn't a normal deer. Something was definitely off. By the time he got within 30 feet, he noticed it hadn't broken eye contact with him. By 20 to 15 feet is when he pulled out his freaking fighting knife.
Yeah.
And only then did it bolt away. So
Yeah.
it was watching him until it finally sensed like, oh shit, this guy might hurt me. It wasn't until 2 years later that he learned about the not deer and kind of put the pieces together. It's one of the most unsettling encounters with an animal he's had in the wild. All the deer he's come across aren't afraid of humans at that distance, have always been in their own little herd, not alone. And this is coming from someone who has encountered bears with their babies.
Yeah.
So that's definitely a freaky encounter.
Yeah, no, my friend AJ, well, not you AJ, different AJ.
There can only be one.
Yeah, there can only be one. This is, I don't know if it's a not deer story, but kind of a very disturbing deer dispatching story. But he was driving down the road and he saw a deer on the side of the road that was like dying. And so he calls the police. Hey, there's a hurt animal on the side of the road. The cop comes out to dispatch the deer. And so he takes his gun and shoots the deer in the head. The deer did not die. So he shot in the head again and the deer did not die. And so he actually called to see if he could use a shotgun, and he was told no. And so he had to shoot the deer a third time in the head to get it to actually die, which is not normal.
Jesus Christ, no!
It's crazy because it makes you think about, with the chronic wasting disease where deer can just like fall apart, how much resilience they might have to actually stay alive in terrible conditions like that, or not react to like horrible injuries they have, like with their leg being backwards. And
think about how resilient deer are to begin with. You'll see a deer running through the woods that still have like arrows and bolts sticking out of them from hunting season that wasn't anything vital, and their body just grows around it. You'll see deer that have healed up a broken leg and they just walk kind of funny, but they're still ripping. You'll see deer with like one of their antlers not shedded, they haven't shed the antler. It's actually been ripped off, and they're still doing their thing. Deer are tough sons of. They're stupid, but they're tough.
They've had to evolve that way too, because they're like a prey animal that's had to figured out how to live side by side with like the world's most dangerous predator, humans. So it's pretty bizarre how much they can actually go through. And like they survive the winter. They're one of those animals that just doesn't hibernate, survives the winters up north by just eating grass through the snow.
They just find a way.
They just find a way to make it. It's absolutely bizarre.
It's kind of scary.
That deer story was absolutely disturbing. I have a couple. Everybody's got those I heard a noise in the woods stories. I've got a couple stories where I was like catfishing at night in the middle of the Delaware, and I've seen what I thought was an absolutely massive deer, and then, it just like runs away, and then you're like, what the fuck was that? Was that a deer? Was it not a deer? But that's the hard thing with like these types of cryptids. Like there's no way to 100% tell if what you're seeing is your anxiety personifying itself, or if you're actually seeing some type of like weird animal that's like not quite known yet. Not deer, dude. They're not deer.
Deer freaking freaky. So, Charlie, can you fight a not deer?
Well, it depends. I know. All right, so we're going with the cryptid version of the not deer, not the diseased deer version, because the diseased deer version would be a lot easier. I don't know if you know this, but hand-to-hand combat with a 400-pound deer would be pretty difficult, I think, just because of the antlers. So
the antlers, and they have been known to swing their hooves.
Yeah. So I would have to climb a tree, like always. I'm serious. I gotta practice my tree climbing skills because
Honestly, if we're
that's
gonna
the
go cryptid
best way
hunting,
to
you better
fight
be ready
this
to
thing.
climb trees.
I couldn't picture something, even if it has claws on the front, climbing with hooves on the back's got to be difficult. You know, I just picture it kind of sliding down the tree as it's trying to get at me. And I would just place my bets on trying to jump on it from above and just grabbing the antlers and just working it from the antler. You know, like, and then I'd beat it up. Once you get on a deer's back, because they're not designed for carrying human weight, so
Right.
I could totally beat the shit out of it. At this point I've already beaten up Mothman, Sheep Squatch,
Allegedly.
the Rougarou. I could definitely take a not deer. You know, it's not even a deer. It's not a deer, dude. That's not what it is. It's not a deer. And it's, it sometimes have been said to have like multiple eyes too, like 4 eyes. That's more
Right.
targets, man. That's more targets. I just
Sticking your
start
finger in
poking
its
up.
eyes from
It's like
his
that
back.
one creature that was like all eyeballs. The one that could be the Australian one, the bunyip. That
Oh, yeah, the
there
bunyip,
was a version of it that was just all eyeballs. Oh yeah, dude, I would just poke all those eyeballs. I know how much it hurts to get poked in the eye, dude. More eyeballs, it might not be the advantage. But yeah, dude, I could. Do you think you
your
can fight?
eyeballs.
Do you think you can fight a not deer?
I think I could try.
Yeah, I know you could try.
I could try.
Are you saying that you wouldn't try against the sheep squatch?
I'd get destroyed by the cheap squatch. But it depends. It really depends. If it's just like a one funky looking not deer that's little, probably. If it's that big ass motherfucker that you put on the stream, he'd probably kill me. That looks like
yeah.
some kind of
Let me
ancient
just pull
god.
that guy up again. Look at that guy. Impressive. It's not a deer, by the way.
Maybe I'm gonna chalk this up to I would put up a good fight.
Now let's talk about what do you think this is? Do you think it's an actual shape-shifting creature, or do you think that it's more of people seeing deer with like chronic wasting disease, or deer with rabies, or deer with severe cases of mange? Do you think that's...
So, the realist that wants to find explanations for everything in me says these are just super diseased deer. These are deer that are either deformed through injury, deformed through birth defects, have that prion disease and mange and stuff like that, because that makes sense for most of the stories. It makes sense about them walking funny. It makes sense about them acting funny. It makes sense about them looking funky. It doesn't really explain them charging at you on their hind legs. It doesn't explain them being the size that they are, because yes, deer get big, but some of these not deer grow to be like 9-10 feet tall. These get to become old world god like.
Well, I mean,
monsters.
They're getting mixed up with Wendigo.
Right. So that's the thing, is maybe they both exist. Maybe there is these deer that are all fucked up through natural causes.
Yeah.
And then there are these Wendigo, like the Appalachian Wendigo or skinwalkers, that are taking the identity of deer, and they're being overlapped.
Yeah.
That they're two different things. So there's two different phenomena happening at the same time in the same area, and people are lumping them together.
And just to clarify something, chronic wasting disease deer do exist. And if you want to traumatize yourself, look up videos of deer with chronic wasting disease or images.
It's fucked up.
So fucked, and it is not a pretty sight. And it's mainly a problem down south right now, which is why they have all these rules against, if you kill a deer in one state, you can't bring it to another state, because there's some states that don't have chronic wasting disease, and if it gets over there, it could be very bad for the deer population.
Like a deer pandemic.
Yeah.
A deer-demic.
Yeah.
A pandemic.
Pandemic. Yes, I know chronic wasting disease deer exist, but it's hard. Whenever somebody says they see a cool cryptid, the first thing we do is come up with a rational explanation of what they saw.
That's the most important thing.
That's the most important thing. The blue devil. We were like, okay, that's just a coyote. We're like, it's just a coyote. You saw a wolf. You saw a wolf. Until the day they actually got it, and they realized it was not a coyote or a wolf. It was actually some type of weird species they've never seen before.
Right.
So it was a genuine cryptid. You don't want to dismiss that it could be some strange species of deer, some strange adaptation, or some
disease,
bizarre thing. But you also don't want to enforce that 100% that's what it is. But for the sake of the cryptid files, I'm going to go with the fact that they're shape-shifting evil creatures that live in the woods. Because that's funner to talk about than deer with chronic wasting disease. Even though deer with chronic wasting disease are pretty fun to talk about. It is, dude, every now and then I get like this thing where I look up things like prion diseases, and they're terrifying. Absolutely terrifying. There's people that were getting prion diseases from eating chimps. I forget what country it was. Yeah, they were eating chimps. You get it from like eating brain matter sometimes. And it just absolutely is a death sentence. Your brain just starts breaking down. It's so terrible. No. And it turns you into a zombie in a sense. Zombie deer is a real thing, whether you like it or not. All right, you want to start going over a rating for this cryptid? You want to talk about
let's rate this thing. All right, so we're going to start out. Charlie, why don't you start us off? How real do you think the knot deer is?
So it's got a very solid explanation for what it could be. It is a very reasonable explanation that we are seeing deer with chronic wasting disease and that we're seeing deer with mange and saying...
injuries.
Yeah, with injuries and just being like, what the fuck am I looking at? And there's also deer that are naturally born different because of the population being so dense now since we killed off all like the wolves and mountain lions and stuff like that. So, but that doesn't 100% dismiss the fact that there's a lot of sightings of things like this out in the woods. If somebody told you they saw a deer running at them on their two back legs with sharp teeth, I wouldn't think, my first thought would be, what the fuck, not, oh, right. There must be a reasonable explanation for this. So, I think this is a plausible cryptid. I think it could exist. The cryptid version. We know that the chronic wasting disease version exists, but the cryptid version. So I'm going to give this a beneficial 3.5.
Oh, wow, you're going real low for how much you believe in it.
That's over half. Okay. We don't have, look, I'll say for like the Blue Devil, we had a body. For the agua, it was just a big turtle. Yeah, for a lot of these cryptids, I've been giving them 2.5 ratings.
For the lizard man, we had a lima bean farmer.
Yeah, we knew for a fact what it was, you know? And that's the scale we're basing it off of. So if there's some that I know for 100% exist, and there's some that I know that 100% don't exist, one that I'm just kind of like, yeah, this could be real, I'm going to give it a 3.5.
So I agree with most of what you said. I agree that definitely... we do know for a fact that there are diseased deer out there running around with mange and brain-eating disease and almost like zombie deer. And we've studied the Wendigo already from the West Coast, and having an East Coast Wendigo makes sense. There's so much weird shit in the Appalachian Mountains. So, I don't know. Plus, I have kind of a weird sighting. Dan has a story. You have stories. And the sheer range of sightings and stories about the knot deer. Yeah. Covering such a wide area, it does lend itself to some truth. I'm gonna come above you. I think I'm gonna give it a 4.5.
4.5. Wow.
Yeah, I think it's plausible that at the very least the knot deer is just these super deformed, deranged, diseased deer, but with the off chance that they are skinwalkers and or Wendigo.
All right, I'm gonna ask you this question first because. My answer is biased because I'm already super into this, but how cool do you think the knot deer is?
To be honest, man. It's just a weird deer.
Don't you say it's a deer. Don't you fucking say it's a deer, because it's not a deer.
It's not that cool.
Oh my god.
It's just...
it's something pretending to be a deer. It's like... trying to pose as a deer so it can, like, for whatever mysterious reason. It's like a shape-shifting creature that just can't get it right.
It's just, I don't know, it's not... I'm going to go straight down the middle. I'm going to give a solid 2.5.
Garbage.
Because it's just a big, deformed,
it's not
weird deer.
It doesn't have a deer. It's not a deer.
Just a big deformed deer that's not a deer.
I think this thing's cool as fuck. I love it. I love deer in general though too, just because I love the way they behave. I love how resilient they are. I'm gonna give the knot deer a 4.0 for coolness for me. The thing's so cool, man. Okay. It is cool. It's a shape. It's pretending. It is pretending to be an animal of prey.
I can pretend to be intelligent. Doesn't make me cool.
It looks at you, and it's got sharp teeth, and it can stand up and just claw you to death if it wants to. It is...
so can my neighbor's cat.
Okay, that's because you're weak. No, I'm just kidding. No.
Well, then how unique do you think the not deer is?
Fairly unique. Fairly unique. I mean, I don't know too many cryptids that pretend to be a regular animal and are just really bad at it.
That's true.
Or use it as a tool to get close to things. There's not most cryptids make themselves either, they're either like terrifying cursed creatures that are too bizarre to believe exist, or they're docile, like hideaway. This is kind of like in the mix. It just blends in with the deer population, and then
But tries
tries its hardest, and then fails and terrifies
Right.
people. So it's pretty unique. I don't really know any other cryptids that really do what it does. So I'm gonna give it a 4.3 for uniqueness.
I do agree that this is the first time we've seen a cryptid try to mimic a non-cryptid
Yeah.
in order to get close to things. Like we've had other. Have we had anything in the past that like mimics voices at least? Or is that we haven't even gone over
We
anything
haven't
like
we
that
haven't
yet?
gotten to those yet, and we haven't gotten
But
to skinwalker type stuff, which is
Right, but I know that exists where things are like mimicking voices out in the woods and things like that. But this is this first time that we're seeing something that actually disguises himself and fails in order to blend in, and for what reason we don't even really know. Like,
And
they're
it's
not,
almost like they fail intentionally sometimes because they appear to be deer and then they transform into like what they are. Like you're looking at it and then it stands up and you're like, oh shit, what am I looking at?
And it makes you wonder like what their intention is. Like, are they hiding to get closer to us? Like, are we prey? Is it hiding to study us? Is it hiding to be so it doesn't get attacked by something else? Is there something that's preying on the not deer and then not deer's
What's
hiding
not
as
its
deer?
purpose?
Right? Exactly. Yeah. What's its not purpose?
What's
So
its
it's
not
definitely
purpose?
interesting. So while it isn't very cool, it's definitely unique.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna give it an even 4.
Even 4. Well, we have our 6 scores.
All right. Let me get the math duck ready.
Yep. I will get the math calculator ready.
Math duck is ready.
Math calculator is not ready. Math calculator is ready. All right, you ready?
Ready.
Yeah, 3.5 plus 4.5 plus 4.0 plus 2.5 plus 4.3 plus 4.0. And we have a fairly decent score on the higher edge of things of 22.8. Dun, dun.
Not bad. Not bad. The not deer's up there.
He is up there. I kind
Definitely
of
beat the lizard man.
I love this thing, man. I love this thing so much. I think they pick a deer because they are a prey animal and they still get decently sized. Like a full-grown buck can be like 300 to 400 pounds.
And there's so many of them, so it's
And
easy
there's
to hide
so
in a
many
herd.
of them, so it's really easy to hide. And then they look like a prey animal, and all of a sudden they stand up and they're a predator. I do really think chronic wasting disease, though, has a big impact on like the sightings.
It makes me wonder, why aren't there not bear and like not mountain lion and not buffalo and things
Maybe
like that? Because chronic wasting disease does affect. It's not only in the deer population, right?
It is.
It's only deer. It only
It's
affects
only
deer.
in the
There's
deer
no.
as
There's
far
no
as I
chronic
know.
wasting disease that affects bear or any other animal.
Is CWD only in deer? It affects other members of the deer family, including elk, moose, and reindeer. Yeah.
Okay, so that does make it even more interesting.
Yeah, so it's almost like if it is, it could be related to the CWD too, because a lot of these sightings are recent, and CWD is a fairly recent disease. It came from overpopulation of deers.
What evolution thing would make your species be like, there's too many of us, we're just gonna randomly some of us are gonna be dying for no reason? Like, that's just such a weird.
That actually happens a lot in nature, and it's because it has to do with nature kind of self-limiting itself.
Okay.
So that's why, like humans, we get sick all the time. There's so many diseases that can kill us, so we have to
We
constantly
suck.
get vaccinations and
Medicates and
to fix ourselves. We can't even
Right.
drink the water like normal animals now. You can't go to a stream and drink water without getting sick.
Right.
We're like the only species on Earth that can't do that. It's kind of like nature's way of bending the herd. So
Makes
when you
sense.
have these large populations of animals, infections and diseases spread rapidly.
Yeah.
As population increase, so do diseases and sickness.
Well, like that makes sense that if it's already existing, that it spreads. Like think flu season. We're all
Yeah.
compacted in indoors. Like one person gets the flu now, everyone has it. But for it
Yeah.
to actually like manifest because there's so many of them, that's what's wild to me.
Yeah.
Which kind of leans me more towards like this could be a real cryptid.
So the first case of chronic wasting disease wasn't until 1967. So
Okay.
like extremely recent.
Yeah,
in the
that's
grand
only
scheme.
within the last 100 years.
And it is caused by misfolded proteins in the prions. So it started off as a genetic mutation.
Oh shit. Okay.
So it's literally like an evolutionary thing just to thin the herds out when they get overpopulated. Super terrifying.
Is it contagious if it's genetic?
To other deer, yes. Infected
Wow.
animals can appear healthy for months or years. The speed at which CWD progresses depends on what species and the animal's genetics. So the species of deer and the animal's genetics affect how fast the infected deer will develop symptoms from the prion disease itself. Yeah, that's the same thing with like mad cow disease. It's a prion disease, or the prion diseases they were having from the people that were eating chimps. And I forget where they were eating chimps, but I did a report on prion diseases in high school. But yeah, dude, super weird, man. It's crazy, and it almost makes you think what happens if that happens to us eventually.
Yeah, Jesus Christ! We start getting CWD.
Yeah, we start getting like natural prion diseases that could take us out. It's like that the game The Last of Us. Have you played that?
The fungus people.
Yeah, fungus people. We have almost no natural abilities to fight off like fungal infections.
Right.
So if there were something like a type of fungus that was able to grow inside the human body and just like take us out, it would be devastating. It would be terrible. Luckily, most funguses can't survive in like warm temperatures like we have. That's why like all the brain mind controlling fungus, what are they called? Quadriceps or whatever they're called.
Yeah, they take over like spiders and shit.
Yeah, they take over spiders and like snails and shit. They have to be in like cool bodied organisms.
Yeah, and they tend to take over things that don't have blood.
Yeah.
If you notice, because they start to run the nervous system and the body.
Yeah.
Like spiders run on hydraulic. Like they don't have any blood or what's the word?
Muscles.
Muscles. Yes. They have. It's literally their legs work like pistons. They literally just pump air in and out of their legs to bend them, which is wild to me.
Yeah, I did know that actually. Which still like I love when I think about weird facts like that, and they still blow my mind afterwards. Cool. Yeah, dude, that's the knot deer. That is the knot deer.
Man. That is the knot deer.
Yeah. Sweet.
So, if you're not in our Discord, definitely join our Discord. It's fucking cool. We share a bunch of cool stuff in there. We talk about movies and stuff that we find out in the wild and talk about cryptids, and most of the time it's me talking to myself. But I'm doing my best to try and get people to talk to me.
Yeah.
We have a voice chat channel where we'll hop on and we'll talk to whoever's online, just shoot the shit while we're doing stuff. It's cool. We have a little community going and we're trying to build it.
Yeah. We're on Reddit too now. There's a cryptids page that I interact a lot in, and then there's the cryptozoology page that I communicate in. They're kind of snobby. And then when I talk about all the science behind the cryptids, they're like, oh, that's not a real cryptid. I don't like that cryptid. So I'm like, all right, dude.
Make sure you're following us on Instagram and Facebook. It's DNR Paranormal everywhere you can find it. I think that's about it in terms of plugs.
Yeah.
If you want, I'm going to put it in the Discord. You can follow me on Letterboxd because I have started a list of movies that pertain to the Cryptid Files and DNR Paranormal. So anytime I watch a movie that has to do with a cryptid or a ghost story that's based off a real story, anything like that, I throw it in there and gives you guys recommends to watch. It's pretty cool. So I'm going to put that down there. And make sure you are subscribed and checking on all this stuff.
And once AJ gets down here, we're going to have more cryptid adventures because we're going to be closer to the action of Maryland, Virginia, and the American South, which happens to be full of cryptids.
We're already planning a trip to go see the Lizard Man.
So. Yeah, Lizard Man Museum. We're going to go do some Lizard Man investigation. Go check out. Maybe we can go check out the actual lima bean farm where the Lizard Man's from. So.
Yeah, I have the name of the swamp in my research, so we'll go check it out. So we're gonna take you guys on all those rides. It'll be cool. So definitely follow us on all the socials. Join us in the Discord and all that cool shit. All right, guys.
I'm not a deer.